Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to Replenish the Atmosphere of Discovery, where we discover the Master's plan for our lives. So today's session is session number 86. We will be talking about exposing entitlement. So if this is you or someone you know, this is something that you need to listen to. Today's session is titled Exposing Entitlement. So entitlement is a mindset or attitude, right? Sometimes becoming a personality trait like narcissism that distorts how we view our desires, how we view our needs, also affecting how we interact with other people, right? And so I want to challenge the belief that simply wanting or deserving something means that we are owed it at somebody else's expense, right? And by somebody else's expense, I mean that at the expense of crossing boundaries, belittling and demeaning people, or mentally and emotionally injuring other people. Okay. So even if you deserve a thing, it is not a requirement that you receive it. Okay. That entitled attitude begins when you believe that you are owed something without the effort required and without the authority or access granted to you. Okay. That's when that attitude begins. And this can start even in childhood. Okay. Children do this to their parents, right? They believe they're owed certain things. Parents do it to children. Relatives do it to each other, right? Oh, because, I'm your mother, I'm your father, grandmother, aunts, uncles, cousins, then that means you have to do this thing. Teachers do it. Spouses do it to each other. Employers do it to their employees. And leaders do this to those that are under their authority. Okay? So just because you feel entitled to something or someone does not mean that it will be granted. And so sometimes we look at what we desire as our reward for our sacrifices. This is one of those things that we don't really think about. Okay, but unless you receive that specific direction or instruction from God, someone's compliance to your demands is not your reward for your sacrifice. Okay, so an example of God telling you something would be like, if you walk 7 times around this building, the owner will give you the deed, right? Well, you can believe that, you can expect that to happen, right? But what we call a sacrifice sometimes is not truly a sacrifice, right? If your sacrifice is only a sacrifice because you don't feel like doing it, right? But it is what is required of you by spiritual or natural law, then it's just a responsibility. It is not a sacrifice, okay? When you call a responsibility a sacrifice, you might have an issue with entitlement. Okay. Entitlement is a false confidence, right? And it can become delusional if you don't shake that mindset before you reach those different seasons or milestones in your life. If you continue with this attitude, it will turn into a personality. When you keep that attitude going throughout your childhood, into your teens, into your adulthood, it can become a personality. So don't let it follow you and rob you from experiencing the freedom of true confidence. Okay. So confidence is that feeling of certainty and trust of who you are and what you can do. That's what confidence is. Right. And this is without the forcefulness, right? Without the domination of others. You don't need to dominate anybody, okay, to get your point across, to make you feel like you can accomplish what you were already created to accomplish, right? And you have to protect your confidence, okay, because it can be lost when your thoughts or feelings are constantly unmanaged or misguided. Okay, so you can lose confidence by those unmanaged feelings and then turn that into entitlement because you never built your confidence back up in who you are. All right. So if you need more information on confidence, we've already done a session on confidence. That's session 15. Go back through the list of full sessions. Go to session 15 if you need more on confidence. And if you struggle with confidence, then you probably also struggle with value and acceptance too. And we've already done those 2 sessions. So value was 16. That's right after confidence. And then acceptance was session 31. So if you want to go and check those out, if you still deal with those areas. Okay. And so we get comfortable with false confidence because we were afraid, okay, because we were intimidated, or we were just too lazy to take the steps to obtain true confidence, right? Your confidence is strengthened through the action of healing from your failures and your traumatic experiences, right? And renewing your mind, confronting those old mindsets, and choosing to think and feel only what will be beneficial to you mentally, physically, and emotionally, right? And so we find more comfort in fear than finding that comfort in the confidence of who we were created to be. Okay, simply because we may not have gotten to that point yet. We may not have gotten to the place of operating in our purpose, right? So you're not there yet because you have to undo all of the stuff that was never meant to be a part of your life, right? And if it was meant to be a part of your life, you may not have had the tools that you needed to overcome in a way that caused growth instead of fear or stagnation, right? So your confidence should be built upon who God made you to be and not be polluted by those thoughts of prejudice, the domination of other people, or your negative feelings. When your confidence is not built on the creator's vision for you and you try to go about it another way or through another person, that it becomes polluted and you fall into arrogance, narcissism, domination, or entitlement, right? And all of these four have parts of each other in each other, right, at different doses. Okay, so I don't want you to confuse entitlement with confidence, right? If you find that you have confidence without a purposeful motivation, meaning the intent behind your confidence is towards your God ordained purpose. If your motivation is not towards your God ordained purpose, it's entitlement. Okay, if the confidence you have, you're not motivated towards your God intended purpose, it's entitlement. Okay, so just like confidence without humility, that's arrogance, right? True confidence is motivated and humble. It pursues what is deserved without demanding it. That is true confidence. Okay, confidence motivates you to pursue what you deserve and be unapologetic about your purpose. But there isn't an arrogant component or a desire to be demeaning in that pursuit, right? Being unapologetic about your purpose means that you will challenge the standard that society has for you if it falls below or tries to be above God's standard, right? It's not being dogmatic about it. So you can see how that false confidence counteracts you truly believing in yourself, right? Belief requires total confidence, which you cannot get through entitlement. You cannot get confidence through entitlement. Entitlement causes insecurity because somebody can discover that your confidence is false confidence, right? And false confidence is not strong enough to withstand the trials of life without being overwhelmed and taking you into fits of rage and chaos and impulsive behaviors. False confidence is not strong enough to handle that. Okay, so what you expect from others, you must make available to others. If you're writing, what you expect to others from others, you must make available to others. Withholding parts of you from others and expecting them to give you 100% is entitlement. Okay. You are not entitled to anyone's time, resources, and support while withholding your time, your resources, and your support. Okay. Again, if you withhold parts of yourself, emotionally, mentally, or physically, yet you expect 100% from others, that is entitlement. You want trust, but you won't give it. You want loyalty, but you won't give it. You want support, but you won't give it. You want kindness and honor and respect, but you won't give it. You have an entitled attitude, right? Whatever you expect from others, you must make available to others. Whatever you desire can be requested. It can be made known, right? But it is not required. Don't confuse the two. Requests are acceptable. Requirements without mutual agreement are not, right? So you have, for instance, husband and wife. There are things that you request of your spouse, right? And it has to be a mutual agreement, okay? Expecting full commitment from others while withholding yourself is unfair. Okay, so whatever you expect from others, you must make available to others as well. At extreme levels, entitlement can become a narcissistic personality trait that is a personality disorder. When you take a desire from a request to a requirement without mutual consent, when you lack the authority or access, you're crossing over into narc territory, right? In narc territory, right, entitlement constantly disregards the realities and boundaries of other people. Okay. And we must comprehend, even if your feelings behind what you are demanding are valid, you cannot demand what is beyond the limit that someone else has set or beyond the limit of their capabilities, even if you think and feel that it is in their power to do. Okay. That's crossing over into narc territory. Okay. So ask yourself, do you become angry, resentful, or enraged when you don't get what you think you deserve? So take a note of all of the feelings that come up when you don't get your way, when someone doesn't do what you want them to do, and follow those feelings until you get to the root of why they're showing up, right? Sometimes you have to connect it to those suppressed memories so that the root of it is exposed. So you deal with that experience, you process those feelings from that experience so that you don't have this stack of emotions from unhealed incidents adding up on you. And what does that do? Cause pressure, right? So get to the root of toxic and negative thoughts and feelings, because when you are not emotionally healthy and your entitlement begins to be challenged, it often reveals itself through your defensiveness, deflection, and rage. When you are not emotionally healthy and your entitlement is challenged, somebody tells you no, somebody says they set a boundary for you, somebody tell you I can't do that. That's your entitlement being challenged, right? It often reveals itself through your defensiveness, deflection, and rage. Some of you can attest to this. So these reactions come from expectations that were unrealistic due to the past, due to unhealthy environments, unmanaged or unprocessed emotions, emotional ignorance, right? And unhealed soul wounds. Your expectations should come from your healed mind and emotions, right? Because when you expect things from a toxic place, most of the time those expectations are unrealistic, okay? Deflection, defensiveness, and rage enforces entitlement. So if you're dealing with an entitled person, these are not the things that you want to do. Okay, deflection, defensiveness, and rage enforces entitlement. Deflection is a defense mechanism used to avoid accountability when those entitled expectations are not met. Okay, so you ever had a conversation with somebody and they ask you what you think about them, or something they did, and you give them an honest answer, right? And they switch it to you and start telling you, well, you did this wrong, or you did that wrong, or you said this wrong, or you did this wrong. So whatever you tell them about them, they start telling you about you. That's deflection. Okay. A lot of times, this deflection is the beginning of arguments, right? Because now the clarity and understanding that you need to have a productive conversation is pushed out. And when the deflection and blaming starts, the person is not allowing themselves to look inwardly. They are deflecting instead of reflecting. Okay. So even if you find yourself deflecting, if someone is giving you constructive criticism or telling you something that you asked them, right, you need to reflect instead of deflect. Deflection and blaming is when people blame others for not meeting their needs when they're not meeting their own requirement. Right? They're requiring something of someone else that they're not giving themselves. They accuse others of being selfish and disrespectful and unfair while they themselves are behaving this way. right? They avoid self-responsibility by shifting the focus to someone else's actions or shortcomings, right? So if you're having a conversation with someone and they're talking about their feelings or talking about certain behaviors that you have, and you find yourself feeling the need to talk about their shortcomings, refrain from that. Start reflecting, okay? Start reflecting instead of deflecting. So ask yourself, have you been what you are expecting from others? The thing you are blaming other people for, are you doing it too? And why do you want to hold them accountable for what they didn't do when you're not holding yourself accountable for the same offense? Ask yourself these questions, okay? Deflection can also act as a shield to protect the ego from discomfort, right? If acknowledging your entitlement means facing selfishness or laziness, deflection helps you avoid guilt. Okay? It keeps you stuck in a cycle of blaming everyone else while you remain stuck. If you look around you, everybody you blamed has moved on with their lives and they're doing great, and you are still stuck in that same cycle. When someone asks, oh, remember that vision you had? Why haven't you accomplished it? It's somebody else's fault, right? That's deflection. That's blaming. And nothing changes because you never look within yourself. Okay, if it's everybody else's fault and everybody else has moved on and you're still stuck, it is time to look inside of you. Okay, entitlement is an attitude that is joined with the victim mentality. Okay, always feeling wrong when other people don't comply with your demands. People are not wrong for giving you boundaries and limiting your access to them. They're not wrong for telling you no. Okay? Stop ignoring the fact that someone might be unable or unwilling to give you what you want. Okay? There may also be a lot of projection going on, calling other people needy, or demanding, when it's you that's being demanding or needy. Okay? Entitlement says, I deserve this. And then deflection says, it's your fault, I don't have it. Right? Together, these two block growth because there's never any inward assessment, right? And they strain relationships by placing those unfair expectations on other people. And then they hide what the reality of the situation is. It's you, right? Okay. Entitlement in leadership roles can be dangerous if you are not giving those under your authority a benefit or value to your leading them. Entitlement in leadership roles. It is dangerous if you're not giving those people that is under your authority. This includes your children. This includes your employees. This includes if you're, if you're a manager, if you're a leader in the community. If you're not giving the people under your authority a benefit or value to your leading them, you being entitled is very dangerous. Leaders are not entitled to loyalty, respect, or effort from those that they lead unless they're giving the same. You're not entitled to it just because you have a title to your name, just because you have letters behind your name, right? Just because you were voted into a certain place. Entitlement in leadership and intimate relationships can escalate into patterns of manipulation and intimidation. So we have to be careful. If you are a leader in your community, in your home, you have to be careful with that entitlement. Okay? You are not entitled to anything you are not giving. Okay? You are not entitled to what someone is incapable of giving. Okay? If it is past their capacity, regardless of your feelings, you cannot have it. Okay? So how do you know if you are entitled? Let's start with your desires. Okay? What is it? What is the thing that you want? How do you want to be treated? What is your desire to be treated like? Where do you want to be in life? Right? And when describing what you want, when you're describing your desires, do you have it yet? Okay? Have you provided it for yourself yet? Okay? If you haven't, then why are you requiring someone else to give it to you? when describing how you want to be treated? Do you possess these qualities as well? How often do you minimize and reject others while wanting to feel loved and encouraged? Okay, if it's how you want to be treated, then start treating other people that way, right? You cannot keep that mindset that other people are beneath you, right? And we do this in race, right? We do this in race, we do this in status, we do this with influence and money. We cannot keep those mindsets that because you're this race, you're lower than me. Black people do it too. Okay, the same stuff that they're accusing white people of, they're now doing it. Okay, status, influence, money. You have less than me, you're beneath me. I have more influence than you, you're beneath me. We cannot keep that mindset. Okay, do you have any of these behaviors and languages that I'm getting ready to list? I want you to think about it and write it down if you do. Okay, an entitled person will have these because they inwardly believe that others are beneath them. Okay, condescension, talk down to other people, use a tone or a language that implies that other people are less intelligent, less capable, or less worthy than you. If that's you, write that down. Disregard for other people's feelings or needs, right? You may ignore or dismiss other people's emotions or their contributions to society, always assuming that your priorities come first, right? That's disregard for other people's feelings and needs. Excessive criticism. Do you nitpick a lot? Do you criticize other people in a way that is not constructive to them? Or are you just dominant so that you can seem superior? Are you impatient or intolerant? You get easily frustrated when people don't meet your standards or expectation. You don't want to empathize with anybody. Okay, these are behaviors of entitled people. You do a lot of boasting or name dropping. You highlight your achievements, your status, your connection in a way that belittle other people. And there's nothing wrong with announcing your achievements, right? But if you do it to upstage someone else, to make someone else feel smaller or lower, for instance, like if somebody tell you they got a promotion and you say, oh, that's nice, right? But I was already there when I first started, or I did this in a year, and it may have taken them 20 years. There's no need to do that, right? Even if you are like excessively correcting somebody to show off how much you know or how much you have, okay? Might be a little entitled. Rudeness to service workers. This is one that you can tell from outside looking in, right? People that are like waiters, cashiers, assistants, if people that treat them like they are beneath them, they are entitled. Okay, so if you want to know if someone is entitled, if you take them to a restaurant or take them to the store, right? Watch how they treat those people. If they treat them like they are less than human, they are entitled. And it's not going to be long before they start acting that way with you, okay, if you don't meet their expectations, right? Blaming other people when things go wrong, shifting the responsibility instead of taking accountability, right? And oftentimes they're blaming someone unfairly, like there's no way this person had anything to do with this, okay? Also expecting special treatment, believing you deserve more than other people, believing you deserve better service, more attention, or you're an exception to the rule. People make rules and you don't have to follow them. And even becoming demeaning to people that don't give you that special treatment. You're entitled. Okay. And like I said, these are things that can start in childhood, because why? You may have seen your parents do it. You may have seen relatives act this way with other people. So you just kind of pick up, what is it called? Learned behavior, right? But if you allow that to transition into your teens and then into your adulthood, you are at the risk of possibly becoming a narcissist, right? So to overcome these attitudes towards others, you need to learn and practice self-awareness. Okay, you need to learn and practice self-awareness. Be aware of how you are treating other people. Accept boundaries. Understand that others have the right to say no. They have a right to tell you no. Okay? Understand that you need to be accountable to how you make others feel. Okay? The behaviors that affect how people view you as a person, check those behaviors. Become a better steward of your emotions, right? Decide to be emotionally intelligent more than being right, more than proving a point. Does that make sense? So challenge your entitlement by being intentionally humble. Okay, hold on 1 second. Challenge your entitlement by becoming intentionally humble. This means shifting your focus away from self-centered thinking, right? And notice also when you deflect and choose to reflect instead. So you can pick up on that when you're having a conversation with someone and instantly when they say something, you begin to think about what they did. That's deflection. Focus on what they're telling you, reflect inwardly and see, hey, is this true? They might be giving you constructive criticism and you would know the difference, right? With consistency, an entitled attitude can shift into a purposeful, confident, world-changing attitude. Okay? But you have to be consistent in looking inwardly. You have to be consistent in getting rid of the blaming and the deflection. Okay? Replacing the entitlement with humility and replacing deflection with accountability will open the door to genuine confidence. If you have ruined some relationships because of your attitude, I hope that you consider your ways and decide to do better. And if what I have said in this session, if it has stung you or made you angry, it's because it's the truth. Okay? There's no way you should be angry about exposing entitlement unless you are entitled. Okay? And if you dig past your hurt feelings, you can begin to heal and bring the exceptional, extraordinary version of yourself to the surface. That's what I'm digging for. That's why I do these sessions, to bring out the real you, right? Where you can experience freedom, you can experience joy and true peace and confidence, not the false stuff, right? We go through this life with this false peace and this false confidence, and there's no true freedom in that. Okay, so you are valued, you are accepted, you're already loved. So we just need to get some of those toxic mindsets straightened out so that you can be generational visionaries, right? Where history will echo your positive influence in this world, right? So if you know people who are entitled, if you have some entitled ways, we all do at different points, but it's up to us to check those attitudes definitely before they become personalities, right? And we're seeing a lot of this show up, especially now because they have names for it. So you want to get back to who you are, your expectations. What you do needs to mirror your expectations, and you have to make sure you're not expecting something beyond someone's capacity. And what is beyond someone's capacity is what they are unwilling or unable to do. And they have a right to set those boundaries, just like you have a right to set your boundaries and nobody should cross them. Okay, so I hope I hope you had some writing done. I hope that when certain feelings came up, you begin to record those feelings, and hopefully after this session is over, you will go back all the way back to the root of those feelings. So that way, when you're in the situation, now you have a plan. Now you have a way of handling that in a way that is healthy for you and those that are influenced by you. So that concludes our session for today. I will see you all next Friday at 3 p.m.